Hi everyone, it's Karen here and thank you so much for coming again to my channel. Today I've created a new tutorial featuring a Christmas card with a galaxy background. I will first show you how I created the background and then I will show you how I created the Christmassy scenery. To create the galaxy background, you need some watercolors, a watercolor paintbrush, some water in a bowl, and watercolor paper, or like I use here, Bristol paper. This paper is very smooth and resembles hot pressed watercolor paper, but is a lot cheaper. And it is thick enough that it can handle a lot of mixed media and watercolor paints. I took some masking tape and I taped all 4 edges to my mat so the paper would not move and would hold in place. Then I took the Prima Marketing Watercolor Confections and just started adding it to my background. The first thing I did is that I added some water to my background with the paintbrush. And then when I went ahead to add the colors, they really blended beautifully in the background. You want to use many different colors that blend nicely together, usually from the same family of colors. So blues and purples, or blues and greens, or if you're going to go with the warm colors, so you can go with reds and oranges and yellows. I do recommend that for this background to work really well, that you don't use colors from the opposite spectrum because the background could turn really muddy. Once you're done adding the watercolors, you can let this air dry or you can heat set it with a heat tool. You just want to make sure that it's really dry before you do any stamping. Once my background was fully dried, I placed it inside my Tim Holtz stamp platform because I wanted to stamp the trees. These trees are from the Concord and 9th or Christmas tree stamp set. And I took the different size trees and stamped them along the bottom of my background. I used some Umbrella Crafts white ink. This is a white dye ink, and I had to stamp them a few times to get a really good impression. However, after stamping all the trees, I realized that I really wanted to have them be more bright. So I went ahead and embossed them with white embossing powder. But I didn't want to take this step out because it wouldn't make sense why all the trees are stamped, and I didn't want to create a different background. So I just went ahead and basically stamped them all. I used the different sizes to go along the bottom of the background. And basically what it did is it gave me an outline to see if I really liked how the scenery was going to turn out. So this was a perfect way to do this, and I just kept on adding trees from different sizes as they were going along so I could create that beautiful Christmassy scenery. Since I didn't get such a strong impression with the actual white ink, I went ahead and stamped the background with some Versamark ink and then embossed it with the Ranger white superfine embossing powder. Since I already had the outline for the trees, I went ahead and stamped 3 trees at a time and then embossed them with the white embossing powder. That way I saved time doing this. Then I went ahead with the next 3 trees and did the same thing. Of course, I heat set the first 3 trees before going into the next ones to make sure that the powder doesn't go everywhere. Once all the trees were heat embossed, I took some white Ecoline watercolor paint and dipped my paintbrush in it and then went ahead and splattered some beautiful snow-like splatters in the background. This created that beautiful galaxy background that I really love. This Ecoline or Ecoline watercolor paint is really nice as it's really thick but also really liquidy and creates really nice effects. I really wanted to create a scenery window, so I took the Spellbinder's Deckled rectangles and the Neenah Environment Desert Storm cardstock and cut out a window at the top half of the card. Then I stamped a sentiment from the same stamp set onto the bottom half of the front of the card. I used again some Versamark ink to stamp the sentiment and then embossed it with super fine white embossing powder. Of course, I added some of my anti-static powder just to make sure that the embossing powder doesn't stick everywhere. I heat set my embossing powder and then I went back with another stamp from the set. This is one of the stars that come in the Christmas set, and I just stamped a star at the top of my galaxy background using the same technique with the Versamark ink and also the white embossing powder. I originally thought that the card was going to be horizontal because the landscape was horizontal, and when I started designing the card, I realized that I didn't have any space for the sentiment, so I decided to do the card vertically. And to do that, I had to trim down my background to make sure that the trees fit perfectly in my window. Once I trimmed everything, I went ahead and I glued this to my card. I cut out a note card out of the same Desert Storm paper because I knew it would match perfectly with the front of the card. I also wanted the card to be raised, especially the front of the card, so the window would have that 3D effect and it would look like an actual window. To do this, I needed to create a space in between the front of the card and the note card. And what I did is I cut out another window out of some fun foam. I actually found some craft foam that is really similar in color to the cardstock. It's not exact, but it's pretty similar. That when you put them together, you can't really see the actual color difference. So I took some of my art glitter glue and just glued the craft foam to the background, and then I went ahead and glued the actual cardstock as well. Then I trimmed some of the edges to make sure that everything fit perfectly. This craft foam I actually found at a dollar store. My friend bought it for me and I thought it was perfect because it fit the design perfectly. I actually could have used foam tape, and I originally did, and then took it apart because the white foam tape was showing underneath the Desert Storm color. So I didn't like that difference between the colors, so that's why the craft foam was perfect. Finally, I decided that I wanted to add a few glittery spots of sequin in the background, and I found the cutest little star sequin that I could add. I took some art glitter glue and added a few dots of glue in different areas, and then using my jewel picker, I just went ahead and added those stars into the background. These star sequins are from Dress My Craft and they come all the way from India. However, I will see if I can find some other ones that might be good to add to your projects. And the same thing with the craft foam. I don't always know if I will find the same products that I use in my projects, especially if they're found at the dollar store or they come from a different country. But I try my best to put all the products and list everything so you can recreate any of the projects that I do on my videos. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked my video, please give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends. For more inspiration, subscribe to my channel and visit me on my website. Thank you so much. Bye!